Hey guys, welcome to another video on Facts from Arden. Climate change is causing the amount of ice in the Arctic to melt at a rate of 66,000 cubic kilometers per year. And you can see it's already started to have a huge impact on animals, plants, and people all over our planet. But what else does climate change do to our planet? That's what we're here to find out. So join me as I dive into the harsh realities of climate change and challenge myself to uncover what's really happening to our planet. I don't think I've ever been scared of a science experiment before today, but maybe I should be. According to NASA, Earth's average temperature is rising at a rate of 3 degrees Fahrenheit or almost 2 degrees Celsius per decade, which might not sound like much, but since the Industrial Revolution, humans have only taken Earth's average temperature up about 1 degree. So this rate of increase is way faster than normal. As just one example of the effects of rising temperatures, we know that higher temperatures mean more water evaporates from the ocean, leading to more clouds and therefore more rain. But in some regions, there's actually the opposite effect. Less water is available because while the temperatures are rising, snow and ice are still present, meaning some places will experience drought, which can lead to wildfires. In fact, in 2020, California experienced its largest wildfire in recorded history. And as of today, it's still burning. Okay, so now that we know that climate change is causing temperatures to rise, let's talk about what that means for both the animals and plants living on our planet, as well as us humans. For example, we know that the climate is changing because, like I said, the average global temperature is rising. But changes in the climate can also affect how much precipitation different areas get. And a lot of plants rely on seasonal changes in precipitation to complete their life cycle. Take, for example, the giant sequoia. These trees rely on periodic wildfires to clear out underbrush and small trees so they can access sunlight and nutrients in the soil. Without these wildfires, smaller trees grow too tall and block the sun, preventing giant sequoias from growing big. And unfortunately, as temperatures rise, seasons change, and there are more droughts, which means conditions are drier and forests are more likely to burn, which puts these giant sequoias at risk of burning down. On top of that, as temperatures increase, some parts of the world will become uninhabitable for certain species. The Committee on Climate Change predicts that if global temperatures continue to rise at the current rate, most coral reefs could be wiped out within decades. Not only would this lead to a loss of biodiversity, it could also put humans at risk. For example, 40% of the world's coral reef fish species are reef-building corals. This means that if these corals go extinct, so could many of the fish we rely on for food. Not only that, but corals help protect our coasts from storms. And when they die, they release the carbon they've stored, possibly speeding up climate change even further. And while some animals may be able to adapt to these changes, others might not. Like, for example, while some birds could alter their migration patterns to follow the food supply, mammals like pandas, who have pretty specific dietary needs, are unlikely to be able to adapt. And it's estimated that if nothing is done to slow down climate change, we could lose 50% of all animal species on Earth. So far, we've mainly talked about how climate change is impacting plants and animals, but it's also having serious effects on humans. For example, some scientists predict that by the end of the century, flooding and higher sea levels will displace millions of people from low-lying coastal areas. And higher sea levels aren't the only thing to blame for this displacement. Rising temperatures lead to more evaporation, which means more water vapor is in the atmosphere. More water vapor means more energy is available for thunderstorms and hurricanes. And in places like Bangladesh, where millions of people live along river deltas, flooding can completely destroy villages. And to make matters worse, as temperatures rise, there's more droughts in some areas, which leads to less water being available for drinking, cooking, and growing crops. But wait, it gets worse. Rising temperatures also mean that diseases that thrive in warmer environments can spread more easily. For example, malaria is transmitted by mosquitoes, and as temperatures rise, those mosquitoes are able to expand their territory to higher latitudes, meaning more people will be exposed to the disease. In 2019, researchers surveyed over 10,000 people across 15 different countries to find out how climate change was already affecting their lives. They found that most people reported impacts related to hot weather, such as heat waves, followed by impacts related to extreme weather, such as floods and droughts. One respondent from Uganda said, "It's becoming hotter and hotter, especially in the cities. People are dying from the heat, especially children and the elderly." Another person from Kenya said, "There is no regular rainfall. Sometimes we receive a lot of rain that destroys people's property, and sometimes there is no rain at all. When there is no rain, there is scarcity of food and water. There are long periods of drought and hunger." These are just two of the thousands of stories about how climate change is already affecting people around the world. For example, according to research, rising temperatures are already contributing to decreased crop yields, threatening global food security. Higher temperatures are also exacerbating water scarcity in many regions, leading to conflicts over water resources. All right. So at this point, it should be pretty clear that climate change is affecting our planet in a lot of negative ways. But before we move on to my experiment, I want to say that it's important to remember that climate change isn't entirely man-made. While humans are definitely contributing to it, the greenhouse effect is a natural phenomenon that has existed on Earth for millions of years. Even without humans adding to the mix, Earth would be experiencing climate change right now. And I guess that kind of makes sense. If Earth were perfectly still, it would be really cold on the side facing away from the sun and really hot on the side facing towards it. Fortunately, though, the Earth rotates, which moves heat from the hot side to the cold side. But if the composition of the atmosphere changed without the Earth rotating, then the temperature on the planet would change, meaning climate change would happen anyway. And sure, humans are contributing to climate change, but it's also possible that the Earth is going through its natural climate cycles, as it always has in the past. But this next part of the video is where things start to get really scary. You see, right now, most of the excess heat we're trapping in our lower atmosphere is going into the oceans, which is good because if it stayed in the atmosphere, the temperatures would be even higher. But what happens if the ocean can't absorb any more heat? Well, basically, it depends on what happens first. Will the ice at the poles melt, causing sea levels to rise and possibly displacing millions of people? Or will the ocean heat the atmosphere so much that the air temperatures rise fast enough to cause more damage? Basically, we're running out of time to fix climate change before it starts to spiral out of control. Okay? So this is my experiment. I made 5 paper airplanes, each representing a different approach to dealing with climate change. My goal is to throw each plane as far as I can and see which plane stays airborne the longest. After all, the longer it stays airborne, the longer we have to fix climate change before it's too late. And now for the big reveal. Here are the results. You see, we can't just leave the fate of our planet up to chance. We need to take action. And while this experiment showed that no single solution will work on its own, if we use a combination of them, we can stay airborne a little longer. Okay, so now it's time for a quick recap. First, I talked about the symptoms of climate change, things like rising temperatures, more extreme weather, and loss of biodiversity. Then we explored the causes of climate change, like the excess carbon dioxide we're putting into the atmosphere. And finally, I challenged you to look into the data and decide for yourself whether or not climate change is real. But now, I want to hear from you. What do you think we should do next? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about what we can do to help combat climate change, check out this video. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to keep on thinking.